Welcome, welcome, welcome to Raw and Unfiltered for a really, truly raw and unfiltered Michael and JoJo. Because when the two of us get together, the F-bombs are flying.
What the fuck you talking about? What are you talking
Why
about?
don't I? What the fuck do I know about mutton?
I never swear. I'm a lady like that. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that sounded there like from my cousin Vinny.
My biological clock is ticking like this. Such a good movie.
So
Marissa
JoJo.
Tomei is so hot. God damn it. That woman doesn't age.
No, she does not. Meanwhile, JoJo.
Yeah.
Got to talk about some real important stuff here and things that are going on. So obviously today they had the vote.
Yep.
And I don't recall exactly the numbers. You know what? I should really look it up and turn around. Let's see.
It was unanimous but for one.
But for one, right? That's what I thought.
Yep.
So,
Clay Higgins.
okay. So what's that?
Clay Higgins. Blah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So here's the 424 to 1. Exactly. So here's the crazy thing. How many Republicans were fighting this up until Trump turned around and said, no, I want you all to vote for it. Last minute, knowing he was going to lose, whether it was 218 to 216, it didn't make a difference. He knew he was losing. And so he decided to be on the right side of the issue. Right side of the issue, let's just say wrong reason. Nevertheless, here we are.
Yeah.
But everybody's talking about how they're going to be opening up investigations, that it's going to be slow walk now. You already heard the weasel MAGA Mike Johnson turn around and saying that, the request to the Senate it's fraught with all sorts of problems. What problems could there be? I mean, I'm just trying to figure it out. What's the problem with the writing, with the demand for the release, unredacted, of the files? What could be wrong with that MAGA Mike Johnson sees that yours truly doesn't?
They're gaslighting. They think we're fucking stupid, Michael. They think all the people on this live, they think you and me, they think the American people are stupid. They think that we're actually going to look at all of this and go, they basically shut down the government for 6 to 8 weeks because they didn't want to swear in the 218th vote on these files. Donald Trump had Lauren Boebert in the Situation fucking room to pressure her not to vote on releasing the discharge petition. They think we're stupid, so they think that if they do this now and then gaslight us into believing that this has been all about the protecting the victims and the survivors, that we're dumb enough to believe it. But we're not dumb enough to believe it. And look, no love for Marjorie Taylor Greene, okay? I think that Marjorie Taylor Greene is a vitriolic, hateful, scornful, bigoted, anti-Semitic bitch. I honestly, truly, and I will never say that I like this woman. I don't. We do not agree on anything, but I will give her credit and props for being on the right side of this issue. And what she said today was that she doesn't take people's words at face value. She's learned that now. She only goes by their actions. And then she said, we will see if the DOJ and Donald Trump actually do what they're saying they're going to do. And then we can have a conversation about him being on the right side of this issue. But right now, what they're trying to do is obfuscate and say, oh, well, we need to change this bill for the Senate. Donald Trump is saying he'll sign it. But then simultaneously, Trump is sending out Pam Bondi to open up these bullshit investigations. And as Thomas Massey pointed out, if they do that, that can be the pretext for them saying they can't release the files in an open investigation. They're gaslighting us because they think we're fucking stupid.
Right. So, but let's just, as a lawyer, I want to sort of break this down.
Okay.
Right? Because everybody has a theory. In fact, somebody, just now turning around and saying it's about Melania. And so on, why he's protecting. Other people are turning around and saying that, Trump's one of Epstein's clients, so to speak. Okay. Here's the thing. Number one, we don't know that to be true. You know what else we don't know? Whether or not Pam Bondi is going to open any investigation into any of the people like Bill Clinton, Larry Sumner. Here's the thing. when those files come out, because if they do, say, charge Larry Sumner, if they do charge a Bill Clinton or a Donald Duck or a John Doe or whoever else it may be, there's going to have to be a pretty in-depth complaint drawn up with real specifics. All right. And if in fact that, again, and these are all allegations being brought on by the Republican, by the GOP, if Bill Clinton was involved, if Larry Sumner was involved, if Les Wexner was involved, if this one or that one, all right, they need to be prosecuted. So, yeah, I don't think there's a single one of us right now that's on that would say that we don't want Pam Bondi to do it, right? We would want her to jump right into it, indict these people, send it to whichever office that you're going to do it, or do it yourself. I don't know, but we would definitely want them prosecuted. But right now, everybody's saying, well, we're not going to see the files. Whoa, slow down. Let's see what the Senate comes back with. And yes, JoJo is awesome. By the way, doesn't JoJo's hair look great?
Oh, well, thanks. That's dry shampoo for the win.
Oh, there you go.
Michael,
But you follow what I'm saying?
oh,
My
100%. But yes, but Larry Summer, by the way, resigned or stepped aside, and we have a formerly known as Prince Andrew over what's in these files, right? He is no longer a prince. And I think, Michael, maybe I'm wrong, but I think Pam Bondi has already opened these investigations. I think that she announced that. I think that she said she has done that already. My issue here is that Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump is not going to go from being so baked in to not wanting these files to be released that he called Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of his most loyal foot soldiers, a traitor. Had, like I said, Lauren Boebert in the Situation Room has given Ghislaine Maxwell this preferential treatment in this Club Fed where she literally has people waiting on her hand and foot. One of them complained about being her bitch. She has a therapy puppy. I just don't see how you get Donald Trump, Todd Blanche, and Pam Bondi, Kash Patel et al. From that position to, you know what? So there's the other theory. Let me ask you this. Let me finish that thought, though. You know what? Yes, we need transparency. This is for the victims, blah, blah, blah. Well, here's my question to you and to everybody in the chat. My friends are saying that Donald Trump's going to get a win here because he's had enough time to scrub all of the files of any wrongdoing on his part, period. I want to talk about that because is that possible?
Okay, no. And that's the part that, like, we have this idiot that sort of trolls me, Jesse, that's here. Jesse, if you unsubscribe from me, you would actually make my day. Why? Because I have no use in my day for conspiracy theorists. We work off of facts. And you know what the facts have done for us so far? They brought us to the day right now where they have a vote on the floor of the House finally opened, whereby what ends up happening? It now goes to the Senate for the release of the files. All right? It's because of us. It's because of you, JoJo. It's independent journalism. It's independent people all turning around and building communities, all saying the same thing. Release the fucking files. Plain and simple.
Across
and you know
the
what?
aisle.
We put so much pressure. We put so much pressure on these Republican and Democratic members of Congress that they're saying to themselves, well, you know what? Trump is only in for another 3 years. I want to be here for a lifetime. I'm going to start thinking more about myself because that's the kind of pressure that we put on them. So to those people like Jesse, you're like, oh, well, Michael Cohen's playing a victim in some. I saw him on Joy Reid. Fuck you. Let me be clear about it. I don't care what you think. It's not, you cannot scrub these files. They can redact them, where I can show you pages of redacted documents where it's 99.9% redacted, except for the words and, if, the, and or. All right.
Yeah.
Which obviously you're never going to make out what it is. But if they get the unredacted file, they can't scrub it. They can't make pages disappear. And why, Jesse, you jerk off? You're like Jesse Waters, Jesse the jerk off Waters. Here's the reason why, Jesse. All right. Simply because every fucking page is beta stamped. All right. Means it's in the system right now. And every page has a beta stamp number at the bottom, 000001, 00002. So if somebody's going through the file and you're missing page 00006, you think you're not going to ask, hey, where's that page? Right? You can't redact wire transfers also. Correct. The point is, people will come up with these theories, these innuendos, these hypotheses that are baseless. You do it because you hate Trump. And that's fine. I don't care if you love him. I don't care if you hate him. It's not about Trump. It's about a fucking file. It's about documents so that we could end up holding the accountable and ensuring that the victims, all right, get justice.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what, Michael, you know what I'm writing about, and we'll hopefully have published right after we finish this conversation, is what can't get lost here are the bookends of this news day, right? So we woke up with the news of 2 days ago, actually, on Air Force One, Donald Trump saying to Jen Jacobs, right? He says, quiet, quiet, piggy. He said this to a female reporter on Air Force One. Why? Because she had the audacity to ask him about the Epstein files, right? And he called her piggy. Now, first of all, every accusation is a confession, and the guy does projection like nobody else. But we started the day with that, and the press being quiet, by the way. It's the press being quiet, not defending her, not standing up for her, not walking out. They didn't say a word. They just kept going. And it's that has made this so that someone like Donald Trump, a predator like Donald Trump, can come up in a world where he thinks he can do whatever he wants. He said it. When you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. So he can call a female reporter a piggy on Air Force One, and she needs to take it, and the press needs to be quiet. We started our day with this systemic rot right in our faces. And what did we see in the middle of this day? We saw the system say, no. Fuck this. We saw a bipartisan vote telling the world, actually, this doesn't work anymore. Actually, we are going to hold the powerful accountable.
Amen.
Actually, we are going to choose accountability over obedience. And I'll tell you what, that's a fucking win. That is a massive, massive win. It is wind in our sails. It doesn't mean that those Republicans suddenly got a conscience. It doesn't mean that they suddenly grew a spine. Mike Johnson didn't vote for that legislation because he had an epiphany of morality. They did it because it's about survival. Because, to your point, we, the people, forced them into this position where they understood the writing on the wall. And if they're on the wrong side of history on this issue, they're going to be the ones who have to explain how they gave pedophiles a pass. And Donald Trump could not stand up to them because he needs them more than they need him, because he doesn't have coattails, and this shit reeks to high heaven. So I'm celebrating a win for the survivors, a win for accountability, and a win for a crack in the dam that has enabled predators like him to be lifted up to the highest levels of power.
Amen to you. You know, a lot of people in the comments say, don't let Jesse bother you. Don't let these haters troll you. If you had a chance and you read my Substack of today called Representative Plaskett Owes Americans the Truth, just in the first paragraph, we'll explain why it's something that gets to me. I've spent years trying to outrun a version of my story that was never fully mine to begin with. Twisted, exaggerated, and weaponized by a government machine that doesn't lose. A lot of what was said about me simply wasn't true. But when you're up against the United States government, truth becomes a technicality and survival becomes the only strategy. You don't fight the system, you endure it, you absorb it. You crawl out of it. And even now, long after I've paid the price, I am still dragging the weight of that narrative behind me like a sentence that never quits. And maybe that's why I'm still angry. Not because I refused responsibility, because believe me, I've taken more than my share, but because the people who demanded that I tell the truth under oath are the same people who are now dancing around their own. And who am I talking about? I'm talking about Democratic member of the House, Stacey Plaskett, who was texting with Jeffrey Epstein during my 2019 live House Oversight Committee hearing. She's texting with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, remember, he knows her from where? She is the Democrat from the Virgin Islands. Little St. James, Jeffrey Epstein's island. Well, constituent, right? And so, yes, JoJo is definitely a hero. We love JoJo. Except she wasn't a hero once for me. We were at a party, and these two girls wouldn't leave me alone, and JoJo just freaking ditched me instead of turning around, and left them to sit there and to continue to irritate and to bother me, right? Kept hitting on me. And JoJo, I said, JoJo, why didn't you protect me? Meanwhile, all right, talk about this thing.
I think those girls wanted a little bit more than conversation, Michael.
Yeah. So suffice it to say, JoJo, they actually, there's a motion on the floor now to censure Stacey Plaskett in the House. Imagine there I was. My life was being turned inside out, upside down, and backwards. And she's sitting there with a 2-time convicted sexual predator, child rapist, taking questions from Jeffrey Epstein. Why? Because she couldn't do her own homework? Like I said, she has some explaining to do.
And here's the difference, Michael, between us and them. And by them, I mean the Republicans who have been enabling so much of this up until today, who have been saying, Clinton, blah, blah, blah. We've said all along, if it's our guys and women in those files, they should be held accountable too. There are not two standards of justice here. If my favorite person on the planet, which arguably is either Ewan McGregor or Joe Biden, was in those files, I would be calling for their accountability. And Stacey Plaskett, look, I have long been a fan of Stacey Plaskett. I mean, I remember hearings that were televised where I was like, she's amazing. She's beautiful. She's articulate. She's fiery. She's passionate. She's smart. I will say this. She has a lot to answer for right now. When that story broke the other day, I texted you because I was like, holy shit, it's so much worse than her just casually, I don't know how you would even excuse this. As her staff put out, she said she fields comments from all sorts of people and she's open to comments from her constituents, blah, blah, bullshit. First of all, it wasn't one or two texts. It was him giving her questions to ask you about Rona, right? Rana, how do you say her name?
Rona.
Rona. And it was all day long. It was from the morning. He asked her when her questioning would start. It was all day long. He told her she looked nice and she was actively answering his texts in real time while you were sitting in front of her, and he did dictate what she asked you. And to me, that's disqualifying. But also, when you dig a little deeper on the corruption in the Virgin Islands as it pertains to Epstein, that shit also reeks to high heaven. He basically owned that government.
Okay, and do you really think that people didn't know what was going on the island? That's the part that I find the most offensive.
Oh,
There's no way in the world. You got a bunch of little girls running around and a bunch of planes coming in with a bunch of older guys. Yeah. It's not like the Virgin Islands is Manhattan or the state of New York or Texas or California or Florida. It's the small islands. You're going to tell me that nobody knew what the fuck was going on there? And her staff puts out that bullshit statement as the former prosecutor. Yeah, ban that one. She welcomes information that helps her get at the truth and took on the GOP that was trying to bury the truth. The congresswoman has previously made clear her long record combating sexual assault and human trafficking, her disgust over Epstein's deviant behavior, and her support for his victims. Meanwhile, she's texting with him literally after the second time that he was now charged with sex trafficking and pedophilia.
Well, it was right before the second time.
No, it was not. He was charged with two state crimes prior to that.
Okay. Yeah. Here's the thing, too, Michael. Like what we're beginning to realize, right, is that part of the reason that this has been able to evade justice for so long is because it's both sides. It truly is both sides. There are Democrats and independents and Republicans all mixed up into this toxic soup. Like that guy from Harvard, right? He is a Democrat. He's worked in Democratic.
Larry Sumner.
Larry, I think it's Sumner or Sumner.
Sumner,
Larry,
yeah.
So again, there have been very, very powerful and influential people on both sides of the political spectrum who have had a shared mutual destruction clause on making sure this shit never saw the light of day. And now to know that the antidote has finally potentially been reached in the same bipartisan fashion was the way it had to go, because we had to have people who were willing to put justice before party. And actually, those 4 Republicans, honestly, I can't stand any of them. I don't like Thomas Massey. I don't like Lauren Boebert. I don't like Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I can't remember who the 4th one was. But those are not my favorite people on the planet. But they still did what was right. And it required somebody putting their neck out there and doing the right thing. And there are lots of people. We're going to find out if we ever truly do get what we need and those survivors get what they deserve. We're going to find out a lot of people that we really like are very, very bad. And I'm looking at maybe Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton too.
It was Nancy Mace who was the 4th one. But the part that...
Oh, right. But I hate her. I can't stand her.
I mean, the part that really gets to me is because they turned my life upside down and inside out. And I was subpoenaed and I was providing the truth regarding potentially financial issues that dealt with Trump and whether it was Russia and a bunch of questions that were being asked of me. Imagine that she's literally texting with a child sex trafficker like never before seen in the entire United States' history. But where I get enormously infuriated is that, like in the movie The Godfather, just when I got out, after 7 years of dealing with this, they fucking pulled me back in, right? Yeah. They pulled me back in. What's her name? Rumler, Catherine Rumler, who's general counsel to Goldman Sachs. She's talking to Jeffrey Epstein about me also. Well, you never fuck over the fixer, all right? Well, you need to bring me into it. Or now Stacey Plaskett, I need to be drawn back in, where all of a sudden it's like, well, Cohen, we knew that you were in the Epstein files and so on. I wasn't involved in Trump's life during the time that anything potentially that's alleged to have happened took place. And where I get worse than infuriated, worse, is how often do you hear me shit talk Hakeem Jeffries, the Chuck Schumers of the world, as both being feckless and fucking worthless? All right? And I truly mean it. He's no fucking leader as far as I'm concerned. Here's his comment. When they're talking about the censure of somebody who is now ghosting everybody, puts out a weak-ass statement like they did. Here's Hakeem Jeffries' statement. This is a bipartisan effort to make sure that, consistent with what the survivors have requested, that there's full and complete transparency and every single predator who may be in those Justice Department files doesn't escape accountability. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, right? What the fuck does that even say? How does that answer anything? How about turn around and say, I intend to speak to Representative Plaskett as the minority leader of this, a guy who wants desperately to be the leader and to be the Speaker of the House. Yeah. This is the response that you get? No, he's playing politics. He doesn't want to insult her because he may need to come to her one day and ask her for her vote. So therefore, he doesn't want to say anything. That's fucking weak. And he's weak. And that's why the fucking Democratic Party is failing. And it's only because of people like you, JoJo, and people like, like Midas Touch Network, myself, Lev, Malcolm, Don Lemon or Joe Wolf. It's all of us who keep pushing day in and day out, building communities, making sure that these assholes, that they do what's right for America, not for themselves. Hakeem Jeffries, with that statement, shows that he's weak and he does not ever belong. Forget about minority leader as the Speaker of the House. Fucking weak.
You can't have any moral equivocation on this. So, speaking of Ewan McGregor, I love him. In that Star Wars movie where he and Anakin fight before Anakin turns fully into Darth Vader, and Ewan McGregor says as Obi-Wan that he has the high ground and that it's over once he has the high ground. That's where you need to be, friends. And if you lose that high ground, like we're doing with Stacey Plaskett, like Hakeem Jeffries is by equivocating on the morality of something that she did that was wrong versus the morality of what all these other people have done that are wrong, you lose that high ground. And so you have to be strong. You have to be firm. You have to demand accountability for your own too. And frankly, it is incumbent upon Plaskett. It's incumbent upon Jeffries to say the right things and to compel her to do the right things. He can't force her out. The censure vote doesn't force her out. Ultimately, it comes down to her constituency. But she should do the right thing. She should acknowledge what she did was wrong because there's no disputing this. Okay, they figured it out not because her name was in those files. I believe her name was actually redacted. It was because of the timestamps and the hearing and the dates
and the questions
and the video of her reading the fucking text. So Stacey Plaskett, it's incumbent upon her. If the Democrats truly want to maintain this higher ground that we have on this issue, which I firmly believe we do because we have not deviated from demanding the release of these files, she should do the right thing. She should resign. That's what I wrote the second I read this story. She needs to resign. If this is true, and it is true, she needs to resign. And the language about her actions coming from the Democratic Party needs to be forceful and a rejection of what she did, period, end of story, full stop.
Where the fuck is an apology to? Where's an apology
that too, of course,
to me?
yeah.
Where's an apology to the American people? She couldn't come up with her own questions to ask of me. You need Jeffrey Epstein.
But doesn't that seem like something's really fishy there beyond that there was a relationship that was far beyond that day of texting?
Yeah. I mean, I have a real problem with it. You know, like I said, and I don't want to beat a dead horse because people like Jesse get upset when I turn around and I sort of expose how I feel what this has done to me and to my family, right? This is literally shredded my entire life, my family's entire life. And so while I'm up there pursuant to subpoena, not hiding behind lawyers, not taking the fifth, not standing up and defending Trump, I'm there vulnerable and open, and she's engaging in communication with a sex trafficker, asking me questions. Yeah, I'm with you. There needs to be an explanation, and I think the American people, I believe the victims, I believe everybody is entitled to know it.
And to your point earlier about how we got here, this historic vote today, which should have been a no-brainer, but obviously was not, was the kind of pressure it requires sometimes to compel people to do the right thing because they don't want. Because my dad used to always say the right thing is usually the one most worth doing, and that's because it's usually the hardest. And that's what this is. She needs to do the hard thing because it is the right thing to do. And if she cannot get there of her own accord, she needs to be forced to get there. She needs to be compelled by we, the people, because I can guarantee you there will be bipartisan support on this as well. And that people out there right now looking at this bipartisan agreement on this legislation would be saying, well, how come the Democrats can't hold their own to account? That feels kind of hollow, right? Like we end up looking... Right? We end up looking like we're convenient. We end up looking like we're using this vote for politics, which is what they've been accusing us of all along, which is a witch hunt. Donald Trump slander, blah, blah, blah.
It's a hoax. It's a witch hunt, sure.
So if we can't hold our own accountable, then what do we look like in the end? We have to, we the people,
you know
everybody
we look
on
like?
This. Yeah.
We look like Hakeem Jeffries and the rest of them, weak. And you know what? Right now, we're not weak. Right now, our blue tsunami just rolled over and literally wiped the red right off the fucking mat. And you know what? The blue, you know what the blue just did? You, me, the whole blue. You know what we did? We got a vote passed in order to begin to release the files. So everybody should give themselves a nice little pat on the back and say, okay, what fight do we start with now? Because the fight doesn't end. We got just under a year before we go to that 2026 midterm. So that's what That's my ending line. JoJo, what do you got for us?
You mean like to end I'll end with something I'm writing, okay? So I said this earlier, but change only comes when we wrench it loose, when we refuse silence, when we reject normalization, when we refuse to let abuse become ambient noise, when we demand accountability louder than they demand our obedience. What happened in that gaggle that we saw this morning won't transform on its own, but today's vote shows how transformation begins, inch by inch, truth by truth, pressure by pressure, until the whole corrupted scaffold collapses under the weight of everything it's been hiding. That's my closing thought, Michael.
Well, amen to that. By the way, to those of you, thank you for about the 1,500 folks that just jumped on with us. That Chiron that's moving at the top left corner. If you're a Michael Cohen subscriber, you'd be foolish not to subscribe to the amazing JoJo from Jerz. If you're a JoJo subscriber, please, check out my Substack as well. You click on that button, you could immediately just cross pollinate. Let's keep growing. Let's keep doing. Let's keep moving because we don't have it. There's no alternative.
No, absolutely not. There is no alternative. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, JoJo.
Thanks, Michael.
Appreciate you.
Bye.